You feel it in your gut before you see it in her eyes, that sudden cold shift. Everything was going perfect. The late-night talks were electric. The chemistry was off the charts. And for the first time in a long time, you felt like you actually had a win. But then, she started catching real feelings. She started getting attached. And instead of that making the bond stronger, it's like a fuse was lit on a bomb you didn't even know was there. You see her pulling back. The texts that used to come in seconds now take hours. The warmth in her voice has been replaced by a distant, glassy tone. And you? You're sitting there, staring at a lit phone screen in a dark room, feeling that frantic, desperate urge to fix it. You think that if you just say the right thing, if you just show her how much you care, she'll come back. But that right there, that panicked, needy energy, is exactly how you fumble the bag. Most men are world-class experts at destroying attraction the very second it becomes serious. They think catching feelings is the finish line, but in reality, it's the ultimate test of your masculine frame. If you can't handle the weight of her emotions without losing your own balance, you aren't a man she can respect. You're just another guy she's about to ghost. The psychology here is brutal and unforgiving. When a woman starts catching feelings, her internal world turns into a chaotic mess of vulnerability and fear. She is subconsciously checking to see if you are the anchor she thought you were, or if you're just another hollow shell that's going to crack under pressure. Most men respond to her vulnerability by becoming vulnerable themselves. They start matching her energy. They start simping because they are terrified of losing the progress they've made. You start checking in more, asking, "Are we okay?" and trying to lock down a future that hasn't even happened yet. You are literally trading your mystery and your strength for a false sense of security, and it's the biggest vibe killer in existence. She doesn't want a fan. She wants a leader. She doesn't want someone who's going to hover over her emotions like a helicopter parent. She wants a man who is so grounded in his own purpose that her catching feelings is just a beautiful addition to his life, not the damn center of it. If you've ever felt a girl slip through your fingers right when she was starting to love you, it's because you stopped being the man who won her over and started being the man who's afraid to lose her. If you're tired of losing the game right when you're about to win, if you're ready to stop being a victim of your own emotions and start leading with ironclad stoicism, hit that subscribe button right now. We are building a brotherhood of men who refuse to be mediocre. Don't miss out on the next level of this game. Join us. We have to talk about the reassurance trap. This is where 90% of men dig their own graves and jump in voluntarily. When she gets quiet or emotional, your instinct is to fix it. You want to tell her how much she means to you. You want to send that good morning text every single day to make sure she knows you're still there. You think consistency is the key, but you're confusing consistency with being a predictable bore. Predictability is the death of desire. When you remove all uncertainty from the dynamic, you remove the oxygen that the fire of attraction needs to breathe. Stoicism teaches us that attraction is built in the silence, in the gaps, in the moments where she has to sit and wonder about you. The second you become a guaranteed yes in her life, her brain stops working to keep you. It's biological. It's hardwired into her DNA. She needs to feel that you are a prize that can still be lost, even after she's caught feelings. If you remove the threat of your absence, you remove the value of your presence. You become safe, and in the world of raw sexual attraction, safe is just another word for boring. Let's get into the ick. You've heard the term, and it's real. It's that sudden, visceral disgust a woman feels when a man shows weakness at the exact moment she needs strength. When she's catching feelings, she is at her most sensitive. If you show up with that beta energy, checking her Instagram stories every 10 minutes, liking every post she drops, being available 24/7 like you have no life, you trigger the ick. It's like a light switch. Once it's flipped off, it's almost impossible to turn back on. You've become easy. You've become the guy who has nothing better to do than wait for her. Whether you're 18 or 60, you should always have a mission that is bigger than a woman. If your whole world revolves around her catching feelings, you've already lost your frame. She wants to be a passenger on your journey, not the destination itself. When you ruin it, it's usually because you started acting like she was the prize, and you were just a contestant, lucky enough to be in the room. Flip the script. You are the prize. Your time is the most valuable currency you own. If you're giving it away for free just because she showed a little emotion, You're devaluing yourself in her eyes. There's a dark side to attachment that most guys are too scared to look at. A lot of men have an anxious attachment style that only comes out when they actually like a girl. You can be the coolest, most alpha guy when you don't care. But the moment she starts catching feelings, your inner child starts screaming. You're afraid of being ghosted. You're afraid of being hurt. So you start over-pursuing. You think that by doing more, you're building a bridge between you and her. In reality, you're building a cage, and nobody, especially a woman who is beginning to feel the weight of her own emotions, wants to be in a cage. You need to develop what we call masculine containment. This is the ability to hold her emotions, her fears, and her attachment without it changing a single thing about your behavior. If she's crying, you're the rock. If she's excited, you're the calm. If she's distant, you're still the rock. You don't react to her fluctuations. You remain the constant. That constancy is what makes feelings stick. That is what turns a fling into a legacy. Now we have to address the most dangerous phase of this entire process, the fade. This is that gut-wrenching period where she goes from calling you every night to forgetting, to text back for 6 or 7 hours. It almost always happens right after a major emotional breakthrough. Maybe you guys just shared an incredible weekend. Maybe she finally admitted she's falling for you. Or maybe the physical intimacy reached a level it's never been at before. Most men see this as the victory lap. They think, okay, she's mine now, I can finally relax. But that's a lie. When a woman catches feelings, her nervous system goes into a state of high alert. She feels exposed, and to her, vulnerability feels like a threat to her safety. So what does she do? She pulls back. She retreats into her shell to see if you're going to lose your mind. If you chase her, if you start double texting and demanding to know why she's being weird, you've just failed the test. You've proven that her pulling away is enough to break your spirit. You have to understand that a woman cannot respect a man she can manipulate with a simple read receipt. If she pulls back, you don't step forward, you stand your ground. You let her feel the coldness of the space she created. That is the only way she realizes that your world doesn't stop just because she decided to take a break from it. This leads us directly into the law of least interest. It sounds cold, but it's the fundamental law of human power dynamics. The person who cares the least about the outcome of the relationship has all the power. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying you shouldn't care about her. I'm saying you should never care more about the relationship than you do about your own mission, your own peace, and your own self-respect. When she starts catching feelings, she is looking to see if your mission is still the priority. If you start skipping the gym to talk to her, or if you start blowing off your brothers to hear her vent about her job for the 3rd time this week, you're telling her that your world is small. You're telling her that she is the biggest thing in your life. And while that sounds like a romantic line in a movie, in the real world, it is absolutely suffocating. A woman wants a man who is a giant in his own world, a man who invites her into his greatness, not a man who makes her his entire universe. If you find yourself losing your edge, the second things get serious, you need to snap out of it. If you're getting value from this, and you're ready to stop being the guy who gets left behind, hit that subscribe button right now. We don't do soft advice here. We build men who stay dangerous and stay focused. Join the brotherhood. Let's talk about the simp reflex. This is that automatic, almost robotic urge to start buying her gifts, taking her on over-the-top dates, and doing constant favors the moment you sense she's getting close. You're trying to buy insurance for her feelings. You think that if you're the perfect guy, she'll never have a reason to leave. But perfect is boring, man. Perfect is predictable. Stoicism teaches us that a man must be indifferent to things outside of his control. Her feelings are outside of your control. You can influence them through your character, but you cannot dictate them through your bank account or your constant service. The more you try to manage her emotions, the more you look like a frantic child trying to hold water in his hands. The water is going to leak through your fingers regardless. The only way to keep it is to be the container, solid, unmoving, and calm. If she's feeling distant, let her be distant. If she's feeling emotional, let her feel it. Don't rush in with your logic and your reassurance to try and stop the storm. Just be the lighthouse that stays standing while the storm passes. When she sees that her emotional chaos doesn't move you an inch, she'll attach to you with a level of depth you've never experienced before. We also have to break down the beta bribe. This is when you start compromising on your values just to keep her happy because she's finally yours. Maybe she doesn't like the way you dress, so you change it. Maybe she thinks your hobbies are immature, so you drop them. You are slowly cutting pieces of your soul off just to fit into the little box she's built for you. And the irony is, the more you fit into that box, the less she wants to be with you. She fell for the guy who had his own life, his own opinions, and his own grit. If you blunt that edge just to avoid a conflict, you're becoming a man she can no longer desire. You have to be willing to lose her to keep her. That is the ultimate paradox of masculine power. If you aren't willing to walk away the moment she disrespects your boundaries or tries to change the core of who you are, then your love isn't love. It's just a hostage situation where you're the one holding the chains on yourself. For the older guys watching, those of you in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, this is where your maturity becomes your greatest weapon or your greatest weakness. You've seen enough of life to know that feelings come and go like the weather. If you act like a love-struck teenager, the moment a woman shows you affection, she's going to lose respect for you instantly. She's looking for a man who is unshakable, a man who has been through the fire and didn't melt. At this age, a woman is testing your leadership more than your attraction. She wants to know if you can handle her baggage and your own without breaking a sweat. If you start getting needy or anxious because she hasn't texted you back, you're telling her that you haven't learned anything from your decades on this earth. You have to be the ultimate stoic. Your life must be a complete, high-value experience, whether she is in it or not. When a woman realizes that her catching feelings doesn't give her leverage over you, she actually feels safer. She realizes she can't break you, and for a woman, that is the most comforting realization she can ever have. The bottom line is this: most men ruin it because they get high on the validation of being wanted. When a girl catches feelings, it feels good to your ego. You feel like you've won. And then you get addicted to that feeling. You start chasing that high by doing more and more to please her, and in the process, you lose your frame. You lose the very essence of what made you the prize in the first place. You have to kill your ego. You have to realize that her feelings are a byproduct of your character, not the goal. If you focus on the byproduct, you'll lose the character. If you focus on the character, the byproduct will always be there. Stay dangerous, stay focused, and never, ever let her feelings dictate your reality. Now, we're entering the most treacherous territory of all, the comfort zone. Most men think that once the feelings are caught and the relationship label is slapped on, the work is over. They think they can finally take their foot off the gas. But in the world of raw human attraction, the moment you stop competing is the moment you start losing. This is where the relationship fat sets in, not just in your gut, but in your mind. You stop the late-night grinds, you stop the brutal workouts, and you stop the relentless pursuit of your own greatness because you found a safe harbor in her arms. You've traded your sword for a slippers, and you don't even realize that she is watching your edge disappear in real time. A woman doesn't just fall for who you are. She falls for the potential of who you are becoming. The second you settle, the second you stop being the man on a mission, the attraction begins to rot from the inside out. You become a known quantity. You become a resolved mystery. And as soon as she has you completely figured out, as soon as she knows she can predict every single move you'll make for the next 40 years, the fire starts to go cold. If you're feeling that spark dying, if you're sensing that she's looking at you with more pity than passion, you need to wake the hell up. Hit that subscribe button right now because we are the only ones telling you the truth about what it takes to stay on top. Don't let your legacy be a man who got soft the moment things got easy. Join us. We need to have a serious talk about the ick, specifically how it manifests once she's already attached. Most guys think the ick is just about bad hygiene or a weird laugh. It's not. The most lethal version of the ick is competence loss. It happens when she starts catching feelings and suddenly sees you fumbling with the basic requirements of being a man. Maybe you start complaining about your boss to her every night. Maybe you show her that you can't handle a small financial setback without spiraling into a panic. Maybe you start letting her make all the decisions: where to eat, where to go, how to live. You think you're being agreeable, but you're actually signaling that you've abdicated your throne. You've handed her the burden of leadership, and a woman who has to lead her man is a woman who will eventually stop desiring him. The ick is her biological alarm system screaming that she has chosen a man who is weaker than she originally thought. Once that alarm goes off, it is incredibly hard to silence. You have to maintain your masculine competence, even when, especially when, she's the one providing the emotional comfort. You are the shield. The shield doesn't ask the person it's protecting to hold it up. The Stoic blueprint for permanent attraction is built on a concept called unpredictable consistency. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's the secret sauce of the top 1% of men. You must be consistent in your character, your values, and your mission. She should always know that you are a man of your word and a man of honor, but you must remain unpredictable in your actions and your presence. Don't be the guy who sits on the same spot of the couch every night at 7 p.m. waiting for her to come home. Don't be the guy whose every text she can predict before she even opens it. Keep her on her toes. Have hobbies she doesn't fully understand. Have friends she doesn't see every day. Keep a part of your soul locked away in a room she doesn't have the key to. This isn't about being shady or toxic. It's about maintaining your own individual gravity. When she feels that you have a world that is spinning entirely independent of her, it forces her to keep moving toward you to stay in your orbit. If you stop spinning, she drifts away. It's physics, man. Let's get into the ownership trap. When men get into a serious relationship after the catching feelings phase, they start acting like they own the woman. They get possessive, they get jealous, and they start trying to control her environment. This is the ultimate sign of a weak man. A Stoic understands that we own nothing in this life except our own thoughts and our own character. Everything else, including the woman you love, is on loan from the universe. If you try to cage her, you prove that you don't trust your own value enough to keep her there voluntarily. The most attractive thing you can ever do is give her the total freedom to leave, and then show her every single day why she would be a fool to do so. Your ownership should be over your own life, your own body, and your own mind. When you are truly an unshakable man, you don't have to worry about her leaving because you know that even if she did, your world would remain intact. That lack of need is the most powerful aphrodisiac on the planet. As you move forward, whether you're 25 or 55, remember that the winner's curse is real. The higher you climb, the harder it is to stay there. When she starts catching feelings, she is giving you her most precious asset, her emotional surrender. Do not mistake that surrender for a white flag of defeat. It is an invitation to lead. If you fail to lead, if you get lazy, if you let your insecurities take the wheel, you aren't just ruining a relationship. You're failing a test of your own manhood. Stay the man she fell for, but keep evolving into a version of that man she hasn't even met yet. Keep her guessing, keep her respected, but most importantly, keep her second to your purpose. When a man puts his purpose first, a woman will move mountains to be his second. That is the order of the world. That is how you keep the fire burning until the very end. Stop fumbling. Lock in. Be the man who is worth catching feelings for, and the man who is strong enough to keep them. Look, man, at the end of the day, when the sun goes down and the noise of the world finally cuts out, it's just you. You're sitting there in the quiet, and you're faced with a brutal choice that most men are too weak to make. You can either be the guy who begs for a crumb of affection, who loses sleep over a delayed text, and who slowly watches the woman he loves lose respect for him, or you can be the man who stands tall in his own skin. It's a lonely path being the anchor. It's heavy, and it's exhausting to always be the one who doesn't bend, who doesn't break, and who doesn't let his emotions run the show. But that is the price of being a man she can actually believe in. If you've fumbled it before, if you've watched a girl who was head over heels for you turn into a stranger because you got soft or scared, let that pain be your fuel. Don't let it turn you bitter. Let it turn you into stone. Let it be the reminder that you are the captain of your soul, and your ship doesn't sink just because the waves of her emotions get a little choppy. Real talk. There is nothing more tragic than a man who finally gets exactly what he prayed for, and then destroys it with his own hands because he didn't know how to handle his own value. Don't be that guy. Don't be the ghost story she tells her friends about, the one who almost had it. When she starts catching those feelings, it's not an invitation for you to stop being the man who won her over. It's a sacred call to tighten your grip on your purpose. It's about looking her in the eyes and letting her see that while you cherish her, you don't need her to survive. That kind of strength is terrifying to some, but to the right woman, it's the only thing that makes her feel safe enough to stay forever. You have to be okay with the silence. You have to be okay with the distance. You have to be okay with the possibility of losing it all, because only a man who isn't afraid to lose is a man who is worth keeping. So go back to the gym. Go back to that business you've been neglecting. Go back to the brotherhood that keeps you sharp. Don't let her feelings become a cage for your greatness. Be the man who is a fortress, not a tent that blows over the second the wind changes. If you can master this, if you can truly internalize the stoic truth that your worth is built by you and you alone, then you won't just keep her attraction, you'll keep your soul. And at the end of your life, when you look back at the connections you built and the legacy you left, you won't see a trail of almosts and should-haves. You'll see a life built on respect, power, and a love that never had to be chased because it was always held in place by the strength of your character. Stand your ground, stay dangerous, and never ever let your fear speak louder than your purpose.